Hi, it's Grandpa Butler. We're going to do another pen and watercolor crayon uh, drawing today. This is going to be the San Francisco skyline. And what we're going to do we'll do the sky first, and we'll do periwinkle blue. It's a kind of a rainy day theme here. So we'll go up and down here with our periwinkle blue, and then we'll overlap that with some gray so we get look higher in the skies, and then that'll all be over overreaching here with some sepia, which is kind of a very brown grayish thing, like so. Okay, so we finished the overlapping periwinkle blue, gray, and sepia. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our watercolor brush here, get it a little bit moisturized, and then beginning activating the water here. So by way of experimenting, we'll start out with this watercolor brush here and come around the bottoms of the buildings, and we're going to stroke up the same way that we did the crayons, so that when we leave streaks, it will be as if we're leaving streaks to represent the rain falling. So what Grandpa's trying to do as an experiment here is stroke from the bottom up here, going that way. We're just finishing up now, stroking upward with our brush from the buildings up to the sky, falling the same way that we did the strokes with the crayons to get that kind of up and down rain-like look here. So that's the background sky, and now we're going to do these buildings here. Okay, so for the sort of middle ground here of these buildings here, what we're going to do is going to do a lot of outlining with the Payne's gray, and then we're going to put a little bit of color with the blue and light orange and this purple that we have here, and then trees here and there with this blue-green, dark blue-green. And so let's start that. You can see that this dome here we have in the foreground, which will be the next step I've done, and I'm going to let it dry here a little bit so it maintains its integrity. So it's going to be kind of a focus point here. So on the buildings, just go through where we've done here, and then we had outlines of the buildings in pencils here. Now we'll go over those with our grays, and we'll touch colors in them. Again, one of the nice things about watercolor crayons is that the pigment here we can just simply leave behind when we do our crayons, like we do a drawing, and so that becomes part of the artwork here. The other nice thing for Grandpa about watercolor crayons is that you probably noticed Grandpa has peripheral neuropathy, and which means that you can do kind of shaky art, and crayons are quite fun to use, because especially when you're doing these kind of watercolor impressionistic drawings, because it works fine for expressing yourself, for doing your art. And that's why Grandpa has started doing these videos in the last few months, is to show you that even, with sometimes constraints, you can go out and have fun and do your art. And love my grandchildren's artistic talents here. They're just all so amazing. And I have amazing parents, just fantastic daughter-in-laws who contribute so much to their lives, as well as their genetic code and their ability to do things in the world. And they are all quite talented. So here we got kind of the buildings outline, windows, rows of windows here and there with up and down lines. And then the next thing is we're going to put little shades of our colors in here and there in the drawing. You can see that we've added a little color into every place. And so what we're going to do here is with this watercolor brush, which we're going to dip, refresh in water frequently and come back, dip some more. We're going to come through, and here we have to take a delicate balance between just kind of dabbing in the water and letting it mix naturally and do an occasional stroke here and there. Mostly, Grandpa recommends the dabbing approach here. So you can see we're mostly dabbing. Sometimes this purple was a little brighter than I thought it would be, so I'll take some of the gray here that starts to dissolve, and I'll mute the purple a little bit here and there, just to sort of even out the look here. Grandpa has no formal training. Well, he took a sort of short course in watercolors, but otherwise no formal training in this, and yet I find it to be a lot of fun. So that you can see that there's, in the picture, which you actually can't see, but there's bits of trees showing, foliage of different kinds. Picture is rather gray, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly due to trees and not really big rose bushes that we're seeing right here. So we'll put that touches of green in there. and then we'll come through and get the foreground here next. Now the foreground here on the bottom is going to be with this crimson and this dark green. The trees behind these buildings are going to be with a dark green and a light green. And then the buildings themselves are mostly this English red and chiffon colors that are right here, probably with a touch of here and there of ochre. Thought we would do the grass in front here with our crimson and dark green, and our brushes here. I'll just pick this watercolor brush up here, and again I'm going to stroke it here since I want the grass to very dark, your grassy area to look dark and grassy area-ish like. I'm going to do some horizontal stroking here. On either end I've got a little bit more red sort of to put tack the picture in place to sort of give some structure, corner support color-wise to the rest of the picture. And then the next thing we're going to do, well, even that's drying here, is we're going to put some green here in these trees. Around these buildings here, and there's some trees there. And then when Grandpa's thinking of it, and didn't quite think of this soon enough before, he's going to get this indigo blue here, and it's going to be his tree trunk. So he's going to go up and down here where these trees are to indicate shaded areas. There's a little building hidden in there, and tree trunks. So to give the impression of that here, he's going to do a lot of that. Doesn't want to be too regular in the trunks. He wants them to be a little bit spread out. Get our other green here now, which you want to be the real sort of green showing through on the trees. And we certainly want to dab them when we get the color in here. And we actually explicitly put a tree trunk in right here in front of this house. So we're going to do that actually in this crimson color. It's not a shadow as much as some of these other tree trunks are, as it is a kind of highlighted in the front object here. And some trees, colors down along there. Okay, now what Grandpa's going to do is dip this kind of watercolor brush here and mostly dab through here. Maybe what I ought to do, I'm just thinking about this, is, yeah, as he goes along here, go up and down on around my house here, and on these tree trunks on the bottom. So I'm trying to get some colorful contrast here while having some fun here. There are some more buildings in the actual picture than this here, but we've kind of eliminated some of those in the interest of time and getting a little bit too much detail in the art. So Grandpa's going to grab ochre here. We want to put a few kind of ochre-like highlights in here, shadows here, and depth to our picture. We go through here. So these are going to be the parts of the buildings that are kind of lit up a little bit more, like roof lines. And now we'll come back with our other building colors and get them here. Under the trees, we expect that to be kind of a dark, so we're going to put this English red here. And we'll move that red around with our brush here. And just a light color, a little light on the pigment here, but use some crimson in the front of the building so there's a little bit. And I think where these pillars are, why don't we just outline, just see how that works. And maybe a few lines representing interior structure in their columns, windows even. Okay, come around there. And just a little bit to highlight that. And now these buildings here, I think we want to add windows around here, window-like objects here, and in these buildings. So we'll just put a few of these here, and they're a little bit more regular. Okay, then some of our other things. Well, finally, we are going to put our other coloring here and get out our brush. We'll highlight above and below here. Draw our crayons the same way we would do our pencil. And that's because some of this pigment won't wholly dissolve, and we want the sort of impression of the lines to kind of match up here. So I'm going to have the front of this be a little lighter, and the sides here a little bit darker on this particular building here because of the overhangs here. And now we'll get our pencil, our watercolor crayons up, and we'll touch them up with water. You can see that I have to dip my brush frequently, or I choose. I don't have to do anything, right? We are having fun. And being expressive here. So dip my brush frequently, though, is good advice, I think, for Grandpa at least. You'll have to let me know what works best for your art. So I'm doing inside of these things first, and I just may leave the outside with just a stroke here and there. Okay. Dabbing, 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 dabbing. Dabbing we go. Okay, and as I move along and see white spaces that I don't think need to be white spaces, you'll see that I'm touching them up. Dip here so I'm not quite so dark around here in front, nor quite so dark on top. Okay. Okay, so I've just touched up a little bit of these lines here. Unfortunately, my neuropathy is acting up in all its glory here. But here and there, just to highlight some of the lines we had before that may have gotten lost in the coloring here. So we're going to put in some birds here, flying in here, and since they're in the rain, it's okay, you can pretend we're not seeing them. Oh, calm down, Grandpa. Okay. The birds here then, 3 is what you usually see, so that seems a little artificial. So we're going to put 4 birds in here, more or less at different strokes in there. They're flying together. And there's the head, there's the body, and there's the wings going down or rising up here. And okay, I think that's okay. Hey, love you guys. Take care. Have fun. This is kind of fun today. It's colorful, and we're able to splash things around. And it's a rainy day in San Francisco. Love you all. Bye-bye.